It's an interactive engagement between the management of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund and stakeholders to review past projects and plan for the future initiatives under the 2025 intervention guideline. The increase in the education tax from 2.5% to 3%, authorized by President Bola Tinubu, represents a significant boost for TED Fund.
That the revenue generated from the education tax plays a very significant role, not only in maintaining but even providing additional infrastructure for our institutions, enhancing academic programs, and promoting accessibility for students from diverse backgrounds.
Insufficient funding and political interference in the sector remain major challenges, and the chairman of the Board of Trustees doesn't like this.
This penchant of establishing institutions without adequate financing, it's not helping education, it's killing education.
Redirecting TED Fund's focus from construction of buildings to research is brought to the fore as the stakeholders call for collaboration, transparency in fund allocation, and inclusivity.
TED Fund's mandate is one of trust, and as beneficiaries we must uphold that trust by ensuring that funds are used judiciously and transparently.
All the Federal Republic and all other governments interested in building education and sustaining it should have a think of merely saying that salaries for teachers, lecturers, and so on is a mere personal cost. It is more than that. It is an investment.
The National Assembly promises improved appropriation for the agency.
As a chairman of the committee, I am deeply committed to ensuring that our institutions are adequately supported and funded. That is why TED Fund remains a critical partner in realizing the aspiration of the Nigerian government in the education sector.
On behalf of myself and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, you can count on the committee's continued support to ensuring that the goals of the TED Fund intervention are obviously achieved.
Although the Academic Staff Union of Universities is calling for the utilization of the backlog of unspent funds allocated to public tertiary education in the country, TED Fund is promising a new regime of inclusivity and transparent funding.
I imagine that you've had a moment to engage with the governors on this. How has it yielded any fruit since the NEC asked for the withdrawal of the bill?
Yes, so I was at the NEC meeting where they asked for the withdrawal of the bill. Before then, we've had engagements with the Governors Forum. We had with the Finance Commissioners. We've had a series of engagement with the Joint Task Board, where you have the head of the revenue services across Nigeria, among other engagements. I'll say we are making progress. I do think that the misunderstanding was...
The tax reform bill, I imagine there was one bill, but upon closer inspection, it does appear that there are a body of bills. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it would be wrong to say tax reform bill. It should be tax reform bills.
Yes, it will be bills.
Yeah.
So there are 4 bills, but in fact, one of that, the Nigeria tax bill, is also a bill that has now harmonized about 7-8 different tax laws.
7-8 different tax laws?
Yes, Companies Income Tax Act, Petroleum Profit Tax Act, Personal Income Tax Act, Capital Gains Tax Act, Stamp Duties Act, because we feel like, why should it be so complicated to find out my tax obligations? Why don't you pull all of that together in one piece of legislation and find commonality? So when should I pay the tax? Who should I pay to? In what currency should I pay? Why do you repeat it in 7 places when you can write it once, use simple language that people can understand? It's already hard to pay tax. It shouldn't be harder trying to find out how much you pay. So while there are 4 bills, you could actually say, in principle, maybe there are about 12, 15 bills that would compress into 4.
Well, I'm sure you're wondering what the correlation between TED Fund and the conversation with Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is. That was a conversation that was held last week, Friday, on hard copy. And if you missed that particular episode, it's a highly recommended watch that you see it, because it's dealing with the tax reform bills and the thinking behind it. But this morning, we're joined by Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who is the president of the Association
Academic Staff Union.
Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Early this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And interestingly, ASUU is talking about tax reforms. We understand that they believe that education, tertiary education in Nigeria could go extinct if these tax reforms were to come through, because they think that there is the major source of funding for TET Fund, as a Tertiary Education Trust Fund, could be threatened as a result of this tax reform bills, because don't forget there are a number of bills. So the question is, how come? Where is that particular fear coming from? We've seen different reactions to this. We've seen governors react to it. They've come up with their own, but that is being handled now. We've also seen some members of the business sector react to this. They think this is the most wonderful thing since sliced bread. But ASUU, coming up to say that this, could threaten the education sector. What exactly are the fears of ASUU in this regard?
Thank you very much. We have taken time to look through the bill, but there's a section, just a page.
All the bills?
About 200.
There are 4 of them.
Yeah,
we
scanned through them, and we found out that a particular one page in that bill, just a page, that if allowed to go, it would destroy Nigerian University, Polytechnic, and College Education. And that section is very clear. I think it's section 9, something.
Of which one of the bills?
Maybe I would have come with a copy of it.
Yeah.
But that section indicated that they will aggregate the 2%, 3% for education, 1% for Naseni, and all of them. And then Naseni and NIDA. And then aggregate it as 4%, and they name it development levy. That will come from company tax. Then that for the first year, which is 2025, 2026, TET Fund will benefit 60% of this amount. Then by the year 2026, 27, 28, 29, TET Fund will benefit 30%. Then they will reduce it from 4% to 3%. By 2030, they will further reduce it from 2% to 3% to 2%. And then for the 2%, TET Fund will get 0. Then the NEL Fund, which is this student loan, will get it 2%. So that is what it is. Just a page. And you could know the damage. When you go to Nigerian University today, Polytechnic, the only fund keeping this system is TET Fund. And they say by 2030, they scrap it. What our union made so much sacrifice for in 1992, during the military era, when they challenged us, say, how do we fund the universities then? That the agreement were they cannot fund it. And we came out with this idea. We took a long time to be implemented, and now it's taking care of the whole system. Staff training, today all the training of academics in the Polytechnic, College Education, and universities are all through that fund. The laboratories are funded, the library are funded by the fund, and so forth and so on. And somebody say you want to scrap it and turn it, reduce it, and turn it to loan. To a bank, and give the money to a bank, because I look at this NEL Fund as a bank. You give out loan and people pay back, which means this intervention by the companies will become 0, because you are paying student loan, the student will pay back. Therefore, you are not assisting. So that is the assertion we have looked at, and we do believe that even the governors, the state governors, the parents, all should rise to this thing, because when you remove that today, you are seeing multiple established university. Universities established in the past 2 years is more than universities established between 1960, when we got independent, and 1990. The one established in 2 years is more than that. All because of this TET Fund. When you go to the states, there are some states with 4 universities, all established because they have access to TET Fund. And you can go around. All the projects you see, they are signal and they'll say that it's TET Fund and need assessment. And we are totally thinking of scrapping it.
Well, we heard yesterday in that particular program, which we saw you attend, the TET Fund program, where they said that they intend to start moving from buildings and infrastructure to research. It's going to be more about funding the softer things, things that might be very difficult to measure, but I'm sure that they said there's going to be a transparent way of awarding that money. So this incentive for universities to, come up because they have access to TED Fund money, it would seem that would also be stopping, given the direction that TED Fund is moving towards. But looking at what it is that, the progression, if we're to go with what you have said now, yes, and what you say is on that particular, the offending page now, it would seem that what they're saying, the reason why TED Fund is still standing today is because it is standing as a subsidy for the education sector, for tertiary education.
An intervention fund.
Yes, for that particular sector. Isn't that the situation?
Yes, yes.
But perhaps what they're saying is a situation whereby students will be able to fully fund or will be able to bear the true cost of whatever it is that they're going through in universities. You don't think that this is a good idea?
Look, let me put it this way. Today, some universities are charging whatever amount. And what we are saying that when you tag that to a loan, you are not adding the kobo to the university.
How come?
Because the students are already paying that money on their own. You not give this money to them as loan, they just pay. It's still the same thing, nothing is added.
Yeah, but what they're hoping is that the schools will begin to see that as a source of revenue.
It's not a source of, that's for the university. But what for the university it's not. Let me give you an example. Today, 90% of the university students are paying their fee, paying their charges, and they are in school. Now you want to convert, you want to now say, okay, you want to assist them to pay their loan, to pay their charges and their fee. You are not adding one kobo to what the university is getting. It's still the same thing. What you are doing, you are telling the students, instead of getting the money from your parents, we'll give you as loan, which you will pay back. Therefore, the university is not getting additional one kobo. It's still the same thing.
Yeah, what I guess...
what we are saying, President, students have managed to pay their fee. This is an intervention fund that will not add money to the system.
Yes, but Professor, let us look at the fact that we have, as you've talked about the proliferation of government universities, yes, isn't that correct? We've also seen a proliferation of private universities.
Yes.
And we've seen that there is a huge disparity between the fees paid in government universities and that paid in private universities. Yes. Now, if government is saying, look, you can access education in government universities, but you will pay the full price, determined by the vice chancellors or the, I don't know what they call the body now, of the universities that will take that particular decision, but led perhaps by the vice chancellors. And over time, you can take it as a loan payable when you get a job. You don't think that is something that would work?
Let me explain this to us so that we'll get it. Look at our constitution. Education at all levels is a right.
Well, Professor Sodeke, we do have to, we'll get back to you shortly, but just so we can launch this program right now, we have live events coming up on your screens at this very moment, engaging traditional and new partners with purpose by Nigerian Customs Services, holding at the Transcorp Hilton. I beg your pardon, so please stay tuned with us. The conversation with Professor Sodeke will continue on other platforms.
Well, Prof, so you were explaining to us.
What I'm explaining is that,
yes,
look, education, look at the constitution, it's a right. The labor rate is not justiciable. If it's justiciable, students would have taken the government to court. It's a right. Look at the constitution, it's there. Well, what were we saying? Today, we have more private university than state university. For those private universities, they account for less than 5% of the students in our university students. You can check.
You say education is a right.
It's a right, yes.
Education, broadly speaking, is a right.
Yes.
Basic education is a right.
Yes.
Secondary education
is a right.
But there's nothing enshrining. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't spell out the different levels of education that are a right for the Nigerian citizen.
When you check, there's already a fund for the primary and secondary. They call it UBEC, University Basic Education Fund. Is there. But the way it is...
Universal,
yes. Go and check, it's there. But the only difference is that states are supposed to pay their counterpart fund before they can access it. And many states don't pay. So that was already taken care of.
Yes.
We were part of
that. That is the one that is a right.
Good. No, it's at all level, up to university. Go and check. So what were we saying? Let me also give you an example. In the United States of America, the unemployment rate is about 3%. 3. Nigerian employment rate now is up to 40%. In the United States, where employment rate is 3%, students who take loans, some are committing suicide, some are going mad, that the President Biden had to take it as a government responsibility to pay back the loan of these people. So if in a country where the president, or the employment is 3%, which means within 1 or 2 years you get a job. If you lose a job, you get paid by the state. Hope you are aware in those countries. If you are working and you lose your job, government pay you some money to take. It doesn't happen in Nigeria. So somebody that you are sure we have graduate first class who for 20 years have not got a job. You want to saddle them with heavy debt. In UK, US, where it happened, they are paying back. The government is paying back, and you want to introduce in a country where people are not sure of employment, where the children of the ordinary Nigerians don't get employment. Only the children of the rich get slot. They call it slot now, not interview. When we were growing up, you apply for interview and you get. Today is by slot. The children of the rich. So what we are saying, if look, excuse me, sorry, that this intervention fund is a product of negotiation between ASUU and the government, yes, of Babangida government. And you can't just scrap it.
We want to. I want to be able to get you.
Just a minute. If you want to introduce student loan, go and look for your source of funding. Leave the one that we already have done for the system.
So these are your issues, right? Yes. You're explaining the executive branch of government. Yes. They're asking that the tax that is paid by companies to develop education, yes, should be reduced from 4% to 2%. To 2%, yes. Right. And then it should be the proceeds will now be given to NEL.
Yes. To a bank.
And and you're saying that this will reduce the capacity of the TED fund to intervene.
If it's scrapped, it's gone.
So let's talk a little bit. Reducing the ability to intervene in universities will basically make them moribund at some point. They will have to go.
They will not be.
So let's talk a little bit about those interventions from TED fund right now. Just maybe if we see how important those interventions are to our tertiary institutions, maybe we can start to see where the argument for them for this particular, and it's 2 of the bills, by the way, it's not just one of the bills that affects TED fund, it's 2 of them. Yes. So maybe if we start to look at the interventions of TED fund at this point in time to tertiary institutions, maybe that importance can be something that can lead to some kind of alteration. After all, these bills are in the National Assembly.
Let me tell you, one, in those 60s, 70s, 80s, the university trained their staff, send them abroad, get them trained and come back. But now, all the university polytechnic, all the training, production of professors, of PhD holders, master's holders are done by TED fund, 100%. Mm-hmm. It's a compulsory as a lecturer, as an academic, you should go for conferences and get an idea of what is happening in that area. But all the conferences, like the foreign one, are all funded by TED fund. That is for human training. Our laboratories are all gone. Apart from TED fund, that now today funding laboratories, funding production of books. These are all TED fund. These are the outside. Yeah. Then go there, go and look at all the lecture theaters in Nigerian university in the past 20 years. 90% are built from TED fund. Go and look some of the hostels built for TED fund. Look at the blocks, the laboratories, funding of laboratories, even equipment, they're all TED fund. You know why? As I speak today, and you can check the budget. What they give the federal government give to universities like University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, is not up to 500 million naira a year for capital development. What can 500 can even buy computer alone for the system? Go and check. What the government give to university today for running, that's first generation university, is less than about 150 million naira per annum to run. And what are we saying? It's very clear. Separate intervention from government funding. This is a special intervention developed by the union ASUU with the government then, military government. We ASUU actually developed that decree. That why do you want to? Are the school complaining? Are the company complaining? If the stakeholders are not complaining, why are you intervening to remove it? Well, actually, the last regime, because of our intervention, our agitation, the last regime, led by Mohamed Buhari, increased it from 2% to 3%. And then this regime want to remove it. And the impact is very clear. Let me give you the impact. Yeah. Until it was increased and now being properly collected. We found out that as at 2022, it generated 270 billion. In 2023, they generated 670 billion. And shared to all federal, state, and two, this particular intervention is affect federal, affect state. Therefore, one session, the federal executive council cannot just wake up and remove what will affect everybody. You have to have the input of the state governors. And the state governors, remember, they met Nigerian Economic Council, chaired by the vice president, the governor, and they say it should be thrown away. But the federal executive council is still insisting that it should go ahead with it. What are we saying? If you do that, we have destroyed our universities. We'll bring them to where you now have primary and secondary school, where nobody want to put their children in primary and secondary school public now. And what would that to happen to this country? And I will tell you, if you say loan, how many people can get the loan? As I told you, I had the director, the general of this NEL fund, saying that they have given out, I think, 90 billion. And I asked myself, what is 90 billion at Nigerian University? How many students have they gone to?
Yeah, but you have also, Prof, but you have also said that this particular bill, is supposed to be something that is graduated. It would not take effect until 2030. This NEL fund that we're speaking of, it just came into existence last year, and they have to find a source of funding for it. Are you pleased with the current level? Can you tell us on average, how much is it that the average Nigerian student pays in a government university?
Good. Well, let me start from the beginning. When you are proposing a project and you want to take the National Assembly, you should identify the source of funding before you start. Not that you're not going to take funding from another project that's already working. You should develop your own innovative fund of funding. That is how the things are done.
You do know that is coming at a cost to businesses. It is businesses that are funding TED Fund. Look, I'm just confirming that you know that.
Let me explain to you.
And businesses must survive first before they can pay something.
Let the businesses complain. They are not complaining.
Okay.
But let me tell you this. The students, they graduate from these universities, from Polytechnic. Where are they going to work when they finish?
Just confirm.
No, wait. So that we'll get it.
You haven't answered my question.
Let me finish. I will answer it.
One very straightforward question. How much on the average is the average Nigerian university student paying today?
When you look at put all together, no student will spend less than 500,000 naira.
As school fees? No, Prof, the question is school fees. How much are Nigerian students required to pay as school fees in universities today?
Good.
I'm not talking about feeding, I'm not talking about accommodation. School fees.
The so-called NEL fund, for feeding, accommodation, and this thing you are talking about. The fund.
Yes, but I'm talking about school fees.
We want to be able to put both of them together.
Between 60,000 and 200,000. That's what they pay. Between 60,000 and 200,000. But let me ask you, so that is what they pay. In
tertiary institutions?
Yes.
Prof?
Yes.
You think that on the long run, that is a sustainable, way to ensure that we keep our institutions running?
Good. Let me put it this way. We keep defending the government.
Not defending the government. This is not defending the government. This is a question of putting, because the government is not here now.
You should allow me answer those questions.
Yes, indeed.
When I'm answering, you interfere. It's not fair.
By all means, go ahead,
Good.
Prof.
It's not fair, this interference. What am I saying? There is a UNESCO minimum allocation to education, budget allocation to education. Minimum. We took a survey of budget allocation in West Africa to education. The least country in West Africa allocate 15% of their budget to education. Nigeria allocate between 4 and 6%. That's the problem. Education is a public good for you and for me. Look, if we allow these students to drop out, the impact on this country, we're already feeling it. They become big pool for these bandits and this to invest from. So if other countries are giving 10, 15, 20, 25, today, and I'm also happy with some state now. When you go to Abia, Abia allocated more than 20%. Oyo, more than 20%, but federal more than 4 to 6%.
I'm beginning to assume that you're not a big fan of the NEL fund.
I will never be.
Tell us why.
And I will tell you why. You are in a country where a student are not sure of getting a job. You are in a country where we are spending money on things that have no money. But to spend on children, future. If I didn't have a scholarship, I would not have gone to school. If I were not getting bursary in those days, I would not have gone to school. So what am I saying? That we should prioritize it. What is NEL fund? You are going to now collect loan and a by student. First, they allocated 50 billion to it. Because they don't do work they are running here. They allocated 50 billion. That's a government that allocated 50 billion to fund the education of young boys and girls so that they can be off the road. Can give 90 billion to people going on Hajj, going on Christian, what do you call it, Christian? You can afford this one to go for them. People going for private religion, this thing, you can give 90 billion. But for students, the 50 billion you give them instead, so you pay back as loan. Does that sound fair?
So what are your suggestions?
My suggestion that if we have, as it was in those days, convert that thing to scholarship, to grant for the children of the poor.
Not a loan.
Not a loan. That's our this thing. If you want to help these children, you see have a country there when somebody earns 30,000 naira a month, a bag of rice 170,000. How would that person send his children to school? And it's supposed if the children graduate, and they are not the son of children, doesn't have a big man that will allocate job for them. He can stay there, riding keke and what have you for the next 30 years. And the law says you pay back in 2 years. So we say convert it to a grant, as was done in those days. For all the big men you see, all the big men today, they got those things.
Okay, Prof, I'm just going to quickly read this. This is from the chairman of the Presidential Fiscal and Tax Reform Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. He says, Nigerian businesses are overburdened by a proliferation of earmarked taxes and levies. Addressing this issue is critical to enable businesses grow and create more jobs to employ university graduates, creating a win-win situation for all. He says, for TED Fund, the idea is to move the funding to NEL Fund, which will still be channeled to universities. The universities will also be able to charge near commercial fees that can be sourced from NEL Fund by students from low-income families, while those from middle and high-income families can pay, thereby further increasing funding to universities in a sustainable manner. Student loan scheme is the global standard for funding education. Earmarked taxes are meant to be temporary, if at all applicable. There's going to be a gradual process over the next 6 years to allow for the student loan scheme to take root in Nigeria. TED Fund can continue to function and explore other sources of funds, such as endowment, intellectual property, and asset management for universities, research and development, etc. You don't agree?
Completely. When he was a student...
You don't agree?
So listen, when he was a student, whoever wrote that, and they gave you this one, we accept. When he was a student.
That's from Mr. Tayo Oyedele.
I know. We got free education in the Southwest. If they are giving you this, we accept too. Let's put it properly. How many people can, whatever they call it, give loan to? I can assure you, if you do this one, the loan will still go to the children of the rich, not the poor. And that's what we are saying. Two, why don't they develop their, look for that source too? Look, I am a professor. What I get every month is about 400,000. But I pay tax of 130,000. I pay tax of 130,000. I am not complaining. Why should a company just give you 3% of your big, they are making huge profits.
No.
Just give it 3% to the community where you are having your company. And they are not complaining. The government is the one complaining.
We really have to go now. Yeah. I'm sure that he's heard you, and I'm sure that this is certainly something that the president will take on board. And it's a good thing that at least both sides are listening to themselves. And I'm sure that they will certainly find a middle ground. But we have to thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Elite this morning. Thank you so much for watching this morning. It's been quite a morning.
It has.
Thank you. And we hope that we'll be able to take your feedback tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I'm Malcolm Yusuf.
Thank you for your messages. We saw them, but we'll try to take them tomorrow. I'm Kayla Magwa. Have a great day ahead.